Here is Robert Willett. If you want a reason for why Alonzo Payne was recalled, it would be because of the reactionaries that love this guy. A lot of the reactionaries, these are the same people that think marijuana is a narcotic. Oh yeah, marijuana is a narcotic. Don't lie to us. Now, Robert Willett, he had got accused of a Class 5 felony. He got accused of a Class 5 felony. And Michael Gonzalez didn't jerk his chain around for over a year. He got like a special prosecutor and did something over to the side or something. I'm not for sure. But you know what the accusation is? I mean, apparently for Michael Gonzalez, all a police officer has to do is just accuse you of a crime, and then he's just going to go balls to the wall. He's going to, fight whatever the accusation is to the hilt. But that's not for lawyers, though. Not for past DAs that Michael Gonzalez worked on the drug court. So what was the Class 5 felony he was accused of? And so that means if he was arrested by a police officer, then Michael Gonzalez just would have, put him through the system. But since it was Alonzo Payne, my guess is Michael Gonzalez did not respect Alonzo Payne. But the charge was he stole $1,500. Robert Willett, did you take $1,500 that wasn't yours? Because I got Johnny Law. You're not allowed to rape people. You can't murder people. You can't hit people, and you can't steal. Don't rape, don't murder, don't hit, and don't steal. That's Johnny Law. It's also Colorado law. You can't go around doing that to anybody else. Nobody can do that to anybody. I don't care if you're a judge or a cop or a DA. You can't steal. You can't hit, murder, rape, and you cannot steal. You cannot steal. Now, perhaps with that upturned nose, he thinks he's better than everybody. Oh, I'm better than everybody. Hey, look at me. I'm Robert Willett. I took $1,500 for a Christmas bonus that wasn't mine. I stole that. I took it. I paid it back. I paid it back, guys. So, to err is human, forgiveness is divine? Huh? I mean, what the hell? Class 5 felony, he's looking at 3 years in jail. He's looking at a $100,000 maximum fine and 3 years in jail. Class 5 felony. A Class 5 felony. And then we were supposed to believe that he doesn't care about victims' rights. Well, if he's stealing from the taxpayer, then Alonzo Payne cared about the taxpayer. But Robert Willett, he likes his cake so much he wants to eat his cake and he wants to eat your cake. He wants to take his own money and he wants to take your money. He loves that taxpayer gravy. He loves that taxpayer gravy train. That's why he wants to take your piece of chicken. That's why he wants to take your hamburger straight out of your hands. So Robert Willett was charged with embezzlement in connection with the $1,500 Christmas bonus he paid himself while he was district attorney for Alamosa, Conejos, Costilla, Mineral, Rio Grande, and Saguache counties. They already get like so much fucking money anyways. But he needed $1,500 more bucks. So when my dog was getting murdered and I was like, hey, Robert Willett, can you do something about this? And he's like, nah, I don't want to stand up for what's right. Nah, I'd rather just take this $1,500. I'd rather just take this $1,500. So let's I got some notes here. Let's read some of these notes. Okay. So the DA's race, you got Ann Kelly, the better candidate, versus Robert Willett, who doesn't give a shit about victims' rights. We should pull up victims' rights just so we know as the public, because they're not telling us victims' rights. So the San Luis Valley is Alamosa, Conejos, Costilla, Mineral County, Rio Grande, and Saguache County. And Saguache is spelled with a G. You would think it'd be a W, Saguache. It looks like it's Saguache. Guadalupe County. So the population, if you put all that together, is 46,000. Pueblo, Colorado is 100,000. So it's about half, right? It's about half of Pueblo, Colorado. The SLV, the population is 46,000 total. Okay, so Robert Willett joined the Army in 1979. He served for 7 years. And okay, right after the Vietnam syndrome, right, in the 1980s. Now that's interesting. So he's what, about 50, 60? He's getting close to 60, right? Who did he fight in the 1980s, right? He's fighting for Ronald Reagan. So he's fighting the Contras in Nicaragua and the communists in Grenada, and I think he might have been in El Salvador. Ronald Reagan was. And so who knows where Robert Willett in the army was going. So that's good. I'm glad he actually served his country. He said it wasn't a popular thing to do. It's a good job. Who cares how popular it was? You get to travel the world. It's a good job. In former district, let's see, DA Bob Willett. Oh, Bob. We're going to be all colloquial here. I think the Valley Courier has been pushing to get Bob Willett in there. He was appointed by the governor, Jared Polis, to be district attorney of the 12th Judicial District in the last days of 2019. He had no way of predicting the scope of challenges he would face in the year up ahead. So Jared Polis had actually appointed Robert Willett in 2019. And then he's going to lose in 2020 to a primary to Alonzo Payne. Alonzo Payne was virtually unknown out of nowhere. He was endorsed by Bernie Sanders. So Bernie's got some pull around here. Now we're talking about all the challenges. That poor old Robert Willett, okay? So he gets in there. He's 2019. He's the DA. He has all the money and all the power in the world. And guess what happens? Two of his prosecutors leave for better paying jobs. And then the COVID-19 pandemic shuts everything down, so nobody is doing anything. Nobody's going to court. Nobody's doing any kind of filing of papers. Suspending all jury trials for months. But since two prosecutors were going, I bet you that might have affected the whole, okay. There's a spate of serious felony. This is just from, there's an axe murder in Saguache County, and then the unprecedented discovery of the remains of 5 different people in burn pits in Conejos. That happened under Robert Willett's watch, or was that under Alonzo Payne's watch? You know, some of these DAs, they can sit there, and the Chief Justice, they can act like, oh, they just sit off to the side and they're just benign observers to the whole, you know, American shit show. But what about what they put out there? If they're the chief, you know, if there's anybody that's running shit around here in the SLV, it'd be the chief judge, right? The chief judge is running shit. But I wonder if they care when they hear about crimes that are happening. I wonder if they wonder, because I think that the culture that emanates straight out of the chief judge's chambers is the same culture that we see throughout the valley. So if he doesn't give a shit about justice, if it's all about tricking the person, hiding the salami, if they just want to play hide the salami, hide the pickle, and that's the kind of kangaroo court that they run, that's not going to be good for the 99%. That's not going to be good for the 46,000 souls that are here in the SLV. So an axe murder, I don't know about the axe murder, but that's pretty gruesome in Saguache County. And then there was a serial killer. And then the woman, the first one that that guy had killed, she said something about the SLV was going to get to her. And, you know, when I think about some of the dumb things that these officials, I wonder if, you know, the first woman, well, I wonder if she went up to Quintana and tried to, you know, say, hey, this is what's going on. And Quintana just ignored her. And then it kept on going. Then it just happened and it went on and on and on. I mean, these assholes, you think, actually the worst thing in the world for me, I should have gone and chased the guy that killed Tecumseh and then, you know, just let the chips fall where they remain. The worst thing that I did was I called the police and they came out and they covered it up. They talked to the guy. They know who did it. But now they're covering it all up. So when the police have absolute authority, they can be absolutely corrupt. In Alabama, they were sitting there planting a whole bunch of drugs for 10 years on suspects. That'd be awful. Michael Gonzalez gets arrested for possession of crack. Well, that's not mine. I don't know where that came from. It doesn't matter. I'm the cop. I'm the cop, and the DA and the judge is going to rubber stamp this. So long, Michael Gonzalez. No, you got arrested for that crack rock right there. That's right there in your seat, right there in your car. They fucked their life up. If anything, maybe Robert Willett can actually be a little humble now. Just because you're accused of a crime, and to err is human, forgiveness is divine. Did he skim off the top? Did he take himself another extra $1,500? He had explained it in a different article, and I'll have to pull that article up later. But the judge is going to dismiss it. But I thought this is a Class 5 felony. This is a Class 5 felony. That's 3 years in jail. $100,000 if a jury thinks he did it and gives him the maximum. Did he get a disposition hearing? Did he get a preliminary hearing? He's not allowed to get a preliminary hearing. Class 5 felonies, that's not enough. I've been getting my chain jerked around for over a year. Robert Willett already got his charges dropped. How the hell did he do that? Because he's part of the 1% clique. The judges and the cops and the lawyers only protect themselves, and the rest of the 99%, we're all just have to fight amongst ourselves. Just a bunch of tribalistic, gangland, individualistic. Let's just see what the drug court. I bet it was that drug court thing. So it's kind of crazy, the backdoor shenanigans, right? Robert Willett, I thought it was actually great. He probably did take $1,500 that wasn't his. Alonzo Payne called his ass out. He's sitting there, trying to stir up all this fucking trouble against him, and he wound up winning. He wound up actually, getting him thrown out. But I think this is actually great for us because now we got Ann Kelly. Let's give a brand new pair of eyes to all these different situations. He's, part of the old establishment. How he was such a great DA. He was only in there for 1 year and people were acting like he was the greatest DA that ever lived. We got to go back to the days of 2019, man. God, remember the days of 2019? When gas was $4? When it was $3.50? What are you talking about? So, Robert Willett, marijuana is not a narcotic. You're a liar if you think that. Quit taking more tax dollars than what you're supposed to take. Let's see here. Robert Willett lost to Payne in the primary. Oh, he's a Democrat. Robert Willett was a conservative, I think, between Alonzo Payne and the two. He's trying to hold on to this war on drugs. They're mad about marijuana. Alamosa, they haven't legalized marijuana, so Alamosa's trying to fuck it up for everybody else. Conejos County, Costilla County, we've already progressed. We've already adopted what Colorado is doing, but Alamosa hasn't done that. So you got these fucking marijuana reactionaries in Alamosa that's trying to bring back more drug courts, trying to bring back the war on fucking Nixon's war on drugs. Motherfucker, it's overzealous cops and malicious prosecution and malicious fucking judging. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. You want to say a couple warning shots is felony menacing? Okay. And then somebody driving over to my house and shooting 13 shots up in the air, that's felony menacing too, right? Somebody with a big rig acting like they're going to run into your yard, run into your dogs, run into you, run into your house. I read somewhere, I think it was Colorado's Bill of Rights, you have a right to bear arms in defense of home, person, and property. Michael Gonzalez does not believe that. He does not believe that you have a right to bear arms in defense of home, person, and property. He doesn't believe in justice. He doesn't believe in fairness. Robert Willett's his buddy. He's going to take care of Robert Willett. Don't you worry, Robert Willett. Your buddy Michael Gonzalez will go ahead and get these charges pushed off to the side for you. So Ann Kelly is the Republican. They say he's the Democrat. I don't even know what he's doing back here. He's already got another job at the 4th Judicial District. So he's already moved on. But apparently these people are trying to get him back in there. They were so scared of, oh no, a Bernie Sanders progressive. We need the regressive. We like the regressive. The reactionaries all shouted. Robert Willett said the one key experience in law enforcement that helped prepare him to be a prosecutor was testifying in court. You know, that is actually really cool. A police officer, I would be, if I'm a police officer, I'd be happy to testify in court to anything and everything that had happened. And even if the charges were on me, most likely it'd be for a different case or for their case, right? But even if the charges were on me, I think the jury and the people would give me the benefit of the doubt. People still believe in the thin blue line. Who would arrest Anne Frank? Fucking the Nazi cops did. So the thin blue line says, Anne Frank, you got charged with the crime. No, you got charged with the crime. That's what the cops said. Now you have to do your time. All you need is an accusation, right? In Michael Gonzalez's court, if you're part of the 99%, if you're part of the poor, the working families, yeah. Anne Frank, you've been accused of a crime. That's enough for Michael Gonzalez. You get into that concentration camp and you start working hard labor. And then she catches syphilis and ends up dying. Who would arrest Anne Frank? Who would arrest Frederick Douglass? The police did. J.C. Dugard, who would ignore her getting raped in the backyard for 20 years? While a convicted child molester was sitting there raping her. Who would do that? Who would ignore that? The cops did. The police did. As a police officer, you go in and the kids are crying. The victim is clearly upset, and sometimes you have to wrestle the guy in the cuffs. He said, but what about the next day? She may have a black eye and she'll still be afraid of the guy. 6 months later, you present the case to a jury. They may think one thing, but then you put down the photos of the victim's black eye. That's when they understand what happened. So he's saying that he understands the whole story and what you have to do to get to the next step. And he says that as a prosecutor, he's got an instinctive understanding of the process. And so after testifying in court more times than he can count what was required. So that's good. I like a police officer that is willing to go testify in court. My God, I wish I had enough bandwidth or enough. I'd record every dash cam, body cam, everything anywhere and everywhere. Put some cameras up over here. Put some cameras up over there. Robert Willett uses a domestic violence case as a result. Let's see here. Interviewing the doctors or nurses who she spoke to can be used in court because it isn't hearsay. It isn't hearsay to interview the doctors or the nurses? What the fuck? I mean, I guess technically he's saying it isn't hearsay, but hearsay is just you heard something and you're saying what you heard. It's he said, she said, he said, it's telephone. But apparently a doctor and a nurse, they're so important. It's actually bigger than hearsay. And maybe they could, it could probably be used in court is what he's saying. Getting an estimate of the damage the offender caused can make an enormous difference. There's a difference between $4,000 in damage and $400 in damage. His history in law enforcement has been invaluable to his career as a prosecutor because he knows what he does has a real effect. If a prosecutor hasn't been on the scene of a crime and witness the victim has been traumatized, whether it's a domestic violence case or someone being robbed, it becomes easy for things to be sterilized because you haven't had that firsthand experience. Right. If I was driving by Robert Willett's house doing drive-bys, bullets whizzing by his head, and I keep on doing little stop and goes, and there's arsons and poaching and child, molester, abuser, like fucking big time, like huge, right? With the costly and McDonald's serial killers. So he's in a dangerous neighborhood, no police or anywhere whatsoever. And somebody runs over his puppy and murders the shit out of his puppy. I bet you he wouldn't ignore it. I bet you he wouldn't fucking ignore it. It's become sterilized, just like he says right here. Because he sits in the office and he's just, taking $1,500 Christmas bonuses. He's become sterilized. He doesn't realize, what the person saw. I wonder how much he respects the witness testimony too. How come cops don't ask when a thing goes down to ask everybody to write down what did you witness? Get it on the scene. Get everybody to write down, their thoughts and their perspective right then and there. Because the longer that you wait, then, the more time that elapsed and the less that testimony is reliable. But in eyewitness testimony, evidence, when you go to court, you got to prove your case. So I have this photo and I got this videotape and I got these 3 eyewitnesses. That's one piece of evidence. If the DA and the cops and the judges respect the people. Robert Willett alleges his successor, now former District Attorney Alonzo Payne, brought a baseless case against him as retaliation after Robert Willett had publicly criticized Alonzo Payne. Robert Willett says all in all is just used by Alonzo Payne as a way to politicize the criminal justice system and come after a political opponent. Criminal justice system. That one lawyer around here said that it was a legal system. There's no criminal justice system. The victim's rights statute says criminal justice. Robert Willett said Thursday, adding that the legal question in the case involved whether the bonus bumped his salary above a statutory limit. It did not, he said, and he has since paid back the bonus money. He paid back the bonus money, so it was money that it wasn't his, right? Money got into his coffers somehow. Hey, how'd that $1,500 get in your pocket? This pocket? This $1,500? Oh, my bad. Here. When I was younger, 18, I probably shouldn't. I'm 18 or so, and we were, not 18, I was 17. And it was high school. And one of my friends tried to put me up to taking a t-shirt. And so I put the t-shirt, in my shirt, and I started walking for the door. And they had a little detector. And before I even got to the detector goes off. So I'm not out the door yet, right? It's in my, I guess you could say there was intent there. But as soon as the detector went off, I just pulled it out and put it on the counter and then looked at the clerk and said, sorry. And then the clerk says, you just go ahead and get on out of here. And then I was like, see you later. That's what it sounded like. Except for instead of it being a t-shirt. And then my fucking teacher turns around and says, I wish they would have thrown you in jail. Because, how dare. But then the person that put me up to it, she was sitting there flirting with the whole time. Well, let's not get into all that. Let's not. Anyways, a t-shirt. How come did anybody yell at him? I wish you were $1,500. You should have been class 5 felony. Embezzlement of public property. Now, I can kind of see that maybe he thought he could, and that's no less than $130,000. So, no less, the compensation for his or her services will be no less than $130,000. So, and any amount in excess of this shall be set by the boards of the county commissioners. So, I guess they're saying that he can only make $130,000. He wanted to make $131,000, $500. He needed that extra $1,500. He already makes $130,000 fucking dollars. $130 fucking $1,000. And he's sitting there bitching about this and that. Motherfucker, I guarantee you, if I'm the DA and I have $130,000, you're saying 2 DAs left? Well, you got $130,000 you could pay for 2 or 3 days out of that salary. Jesus Christ, I wouldn't need but $30 fucking $1,000 to survive. Then that leaves me with $100,000, and then I can pay for as many prosecutors as I want. I'd also give a damn. I'd also care. I'd also ask some questions. I wouldn't just stay in the courtroom. I would go around and talk to people. According to the document, no such amount of excess was set by the boards of county commissioners. So he was only supposed to make $130,000, but he made more. How come? And $130,000 ain't enough? 6 fucking figures ain't enough? You got working families out here that have to goddamn pinch pennies. And they gotta look over their shoulders for the fucking criminal fucks and the cops and the... Did he have to put a $5,000 bond up? Did he get his fucking weapons taken over? How come he's got Easy Street? He's got the criminal justice lane where he don't have to sweat for shit. Restraining order. He didn't have to do none of that shit. This is a fair system? Bullshit. This is a system where Michael Gonzalez protects his buddies and protects his friends. He's charged with a class 5 felony, and yet he had a whole nother criminal justice system, another process than what I'm going through. Why? Because he's a fucking lawyer. And they used to be buddies, and they used to convict people together. For shit that was planted, who knows? Who knows? Michael Gonzalez doesn't care about the facts of the situation. Michael Gonzalez rubber stamps whatever the hell a cop says. There's been no preliminary hearing or disposition hearing, so how can he allege that one is a victim or not a victim? One's an alleged victim because the other one is innocent until proven guilty. There's been no determinations of fact. Only a jury can determine fact, but he's been pushing for a judgment. He's been pushing for a plea bargain. He's been trying to wear me down, fatigue me. Why don't you apologize, motherfucker? All I was doing was Article 2 and Section 13ing. I have a right to bear arms in defense of home, person, and property. Michael Gonzalez does not believe that you, Joe, Colorado, has a right to bear arms in defense of home, person, and property, or to help with the civil authority. And the whole thing is with the concealed weapons, you can't have a concealed weapon, says our, but that's because you need to put it on outside your person. You can have, 13 rifles, that's all right. Just make sure it's outside your person. March 3rd, the date stamped on the charging document, and that's nice. I mean, look at the Valley Courier and the fucking chief judge. Everybody's like going all out to protect poor Robert Willett. But Alonzo Payne was the fucking DA. You need to respect the DA. Yeah, y'all liked it back in 2019 for some fucking reason. Ann Kelly will be the new DA, and you're going to need to respect her. She doesn't need to obey the judges. The judges need to obey her. She's the one that's leading. What is her priorities? She needs to put a list down. But once she puts that list down, then watch how the entire San Luis Valley says, okay, this is the new laws here. Watch how the cops get in line. Watch how the judges get in line. And then when the peasants, the 99%, why don't you arrest the cop? Why don't you arrest the judge? For the 99%, how are we supposed to trust that this is a fair system? It hasn't been a fair system. You blame Alonzo Payne, but who the hell has actually respected victims' rights? Y'all haven't told me any victims' rights yet. So Joe Maher, the counsel of Willett, so he gets a lawyer, right? Joe Maher, so it's one lawyer protecting another lawyer. Look at this. It's one big fucking clicky click. One big elitist, oligarchical, plutocratic, bunch of rich, powerful people just hobnobbing with one another. One person says if you want to get a good lawyer, then you get a lawyer who knows the law. But if you want to get a great lawyer, you get the lawyer who knows the judge. Which shows you that fucking politics is more important than right and wrong and justice and truth and peace and tranquility. So Joe Maher, man, the decisions and actions of DA Alonzo Payne are stunning. It's a political prosecution. They ran against each other, so this is just, they're still beefing. Yeah, it is. They're both being political. But just because you're being political, that doesn't mean you get to take $1,500. And for Alonzo Payne, you can't ignore victims' rights. My client's looking forward to the full set of facts coming out. Joe Maher is a law partner with the law firm Bill Maher, a practice comprised of former prosecutors. Payne challenged the incumbent Willett in the Democratic primary held June 2020. And in an upset, he won the Democratic nomination. There was no Republican opponent, and then he became... So right now, Robert Willett is serving as the Deputy District Attorney for the 4th Judicial District in Colorado Springs. Let him stay up there. He didn't even go to Pueblo. He went all the way up to Colorado Springs. How long has he even been in the valley? We need a DA who's opposed to felony animal cruelty. We need a DA who is fair to everybody. What's good for the goose is good. I don't care if you're rich or poor. You can't go around murdering people. You can't go around hitting people. You can't go around stealing from people. You can't go around raping people. That's what I suggest. That's Johnny law. It's also Colorado law. But it's just saying for everybody, even to the poorest person out there that's just living in a shack out there in Mineral County. Nobody's allowed to hit you. Nobody's allowed to steal from you. Nobody's allowed to rape you or murder you. Doesn't matter how rich, it doesn't matter how many badges or how close to the chief judge they are. I want a DA who is opposed to criminal mischief and felony menacing, real felony menacing, not bearing arms in defense of home, person, and property. I want a DA who respects the rights. Those are laws. And actually, when you're a lawful person and people say, well, heck, that person over there makes me mad. Well, you could petition. You can demonstrate. The freedoms and the rights say, here are the things you can do. I'd rather have people actualized by the laws instead of coming up with their own fucking wicked shit to do. We need a DA who's opposed to rape, murder, stealing, attacking others. We need a DA who's opposed to abusing. We need a DA who's opposed to bearing false witness and torturing and arson and kidnapping and enslaving. What's good? We need a DA who's got a conscience, who gives a damn. That'll change everything.